Okay, howdy folks. Yesterday, February the 11th, 2025, I released a new version of AutoNicer. That version is 1.2.7. I have the release up on the GitHub page and also on PyPI, so it should just be as simple as pip install -- upgrade AutoNicer to upgrade. But the reason for making a video on this is that this is the first release I have done of AutoNicer since June of 2023. So for about a year and a half now, I haven't released a new version of AutoNicer. And the reason for that is that I really haven't found a reason to. I keep up with security, and the thing just functions the way that I want it to. But the reason for this upgrade and the reason for making a video on this is that if you don't upgrade to version 1.2.7, it is very possible that AutoNicer or AutoXTE, which I have not upgraded yet, but as far as I know, I don't know of any of you who might be using AutoXTE. I only know of a few of you that use AutoNicer. I shouldn't say a few of you. I know more than 5 of you that use AutoNicer. But basically, one of the dependencies has introduced breaking changes, and with older versions of AutoNicer, version 1.2.6 or older, it will allow for the new versions of that dependency to be installed with AutoNicer, which will basically render it completely useless. So with version 1.2.7, what I've done is I've gone ahead and I have pegged the version of that dependency, which that dependency is Astro Query, to its version 0.4.7, which is the last working version of Astro Query with AutoNicer. I understand that this is not really the best practice, but it's kind of a band-aid approach to fixing this right now, because after looking at the changes that were made to Astro Query, it's going to require some rewriting of code on my end. And additionally, looking back at AutoNicer, I wrote that more than a year and a half ago, a year and a half to 2 years ago, who knows. But looking at it, I definitely am recognizing that that code could be a heck of a lot better. There are dependencies that can certainly be dropped, and I think that, if any of you are working and constantly trying to improve on your skills in one field or another, as I do with programming, if you look back at older work and you can't criticize it or find ways of improving it, then you're probably not improving in that particular skill. And for me, I'm looking back at AutoNicer and I can definitely see areas where it needs improvement. So I'm going to try to rewrite it, and not rewrite all of it, but I'm going to try to rewrite it for a version 1.3. For example, I want to move away from the wget dependency. I also want to introduce some asynchronous programming. But one of the things that I'm really strongly considering doing now at this point with these breaking changes with the Astro Query dependency is I'm strongly considering moving away from Astro Query. I still haven't decided whether or not I want to move away completely from it or not, but I think that I have a little bit of a right to complain a little bit about some of these changes with Astro Query. Not so much the changes themselves, but the way that these changes were implemented, or released, rather. And the reason why I think I have a right to complain is because I've contributed to Astro Query before in the past. And so if you don't want to hear me complain about it, click off the video now, but I just need to vent and express a little bit of my displeasure, if you will, with just dependencies in general, because ever since graduating with my degree in physics and applied mathematics, I have been writing code for a living, okay? Little more than 3.5 years now, very soon to be 4 years. I've been writing code for a living, either as a contractor or being employed to do so. And with all of the senior developers that I have worked with, who have mentored me, who have tried to teach me new things, one of the things that has been very, very clear to me is they've all warned me about overly relying on dependencies or using too many dependencies when you could very easily create an internal solution or just use an internal solution. And that's kind of how I'm starting to feel with Astro Query. Astro Query is not the first dependency that I have used where there has been breaking changes introduced and then I have to go back and rewrite code or whatever else. And as somebody who's contributed to Astro Query and who kind of likes to keep an eye on what's going on with AstroQuery, I recognize that the breaking changes that were implemented in AstroQuery were needed. As a matter of fact, I considered addressing the problem that, maybe not the problem, but I actually considered trying to make these improvements myself, and after poking at AstroQuery for like 6 to 8 hours, I realized that it was just going to be too much of an investment of my time that I didn't want to put into it, and so I didn't end up going through and trying to make those changes. But nevertheless, with the new changes that were made, which needed to be made, okay, the new code is good, it's much more performant, it's much better. I'm very happy with those changes, and so I don't want anybody to think that I'm complaining that these changes were made. I'm just annoyed that there were breaking changes introduced, and now I have to go through and rewrite a whole bunch of software because I'm using this dependency, and now there's breaking changes involved. I have to go through and rewrite a whole bunch of notebooks, and I've personally had 3 people already reach out to me and ask me, hey, I know you've contributed to AstroQuery before, and all of a sudden now I have all these notebooks, I have all these things that are now broken as a result. Particularly those who work with the HESARC module with AstroQuery, because that's what was rewritten in this case. And I have to tell them, hey, I contributed before in the past. I haven't really contributed in a while, and I know that they were considering, or I know that they were in the process of rewriting the HESARC module of AstroQuery, but I don't know what happened. Let me take a look. And admittedly, I'm like a month late to the party here because version 0.4.8 and 0.4.9 of AstroQuery were released in the past month or month and a half, roughly. And, people are just noticing this now, and so, maybe we're not... I know I'm definitely not keeping up with rolling releases and updates with the latest software dependencies as I probably should be. But the degree to which that I rely on AstroQuery for a lot of the software that I use, most of it's internal. AutoNicer and AutoXTE are really the only 2 that I've put out publicly. Really the only one that I know other people use is AutoNicer, and so that's why I'm making this video anyways. And so, although I've contributed to AstroQuery in the past, I'm debating whether or not I even bother contributing in the future. Because at this point, I'm strongly considering just writing my own internal solution. The only business that I have done work for as an employee was a cybersecurity business. And all of the dependencies that they used with Python, because I was primarily programming in Python, were all internal versions of free and open source software. Okay? And what they did is they went to, Pandas, they went to Matplotlib, they went to even the requests module, and they pulled down new releases, and they stripped out all of the code that they didn't need or that they didn't want. And in some cases, they were still using very old versions of different packages or things like that. Maybe that's the solution that I try. I don't know. I think that the AstroPi project is great, and I still think that AstroQuery is a great library, and I'm not going to discourage any of you from using it. But my over-reliance on a piece of software like AstroQuery has me very concerned. And taking the advice of the senior developers that I have worked with a lot in the past, who have given me advice, who I've learned a lot from, I'm very grateful to learn a lot from them. Reflecting on that has really made me think about reconsidering how much I rely on AstroQuery, whether or not I kind of create my own version of AstroQuery outright, or really just the relationship that I have with this one dependency now that more impactful breaking changes were introduced. I shouldn't even say more impactful. Really, it's just the degree to which I rely on AstroQuery in a lot of the different software and pipelines and things like that, and even notebooks that I use and that I know other people will use, is concerning, and I think it might be time that I think about an internal solution for myself where I don't have to worry about these breaking changes. So long story short, AutoNicer version 1.2.7 is now out. It is going to be a temporary fix. The only change is that AstroQuery is pegged to version 0.4.7, so you're going to be using 2 versions off the latest version of AstroQuery at the time of recording this, which is February the 12th. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out. Plenty of you have found ways of doing so in the past, and I would hope that you continue to do so in the future. And I hope to see you all again next time.